of them again, so that was declined. We now come to item number 7, local board input. We have received one request, and that was from Troy Churton, a member of the Orake local board, in terms of resource consent and involvement in the notification process. So welcome, Troy. Good to have you here. And you understand the normal situation. It's up to 5 minutes, and then normally up to three questions if there are 3 questions. So, Troy, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Phil. Let's try and do it in 3. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you again. The local board has authorised me to come and seek the beginning of your process of support for delegating a fresh power to local boards, or potentially to select local boards on a trial basis. The delegated power that we are seeking you to give us relates to specific types of resource consent application only, and for the notification decision on those specific types of resource consent only. Some of you may or may not be aware that there is a current judicial review case on the issue of notification in my ward, where my board recommended a form of notification, and the council staff member who has the delegated decision for that notification took a contrary view. And now that case, as to the notification issue, is before the court September hearing. I can tell you that a number of affected parties by non-notification in my ward and from the Chairs Forum, I understand across the region, are increasingly concerned at the treatment of notifications, and it's probably fortunate that we have some highly well-heeled people involved in this case who are able to pursue their only legal remedy. And it strikes me that a number of our communities, no matter where they live, are not pursuing this remedy because of the cost and resourcing fear, but they would like to otherwise. There is no legal impediment for this governing body to grant, to give the delegated authority that I'm seeking. And that I have discussed with several people, including one of the staff members in the department which produced the report. The Aoraki Local Board says there are very select types of resource consent application that we could have notification decision on, and when you see the list which is in the resolution copied with your agenda, the number of applications for which this decision would relate to, should it be delegated to us, would be quite few. So it's not a big chunk of work. It wouldn't be a big sense of exposure. Now I know, without, I'm going to prophesise, I know that Mr. Smallburn and various other senior and highly regarded planning professionals will have concerns about your delegating decision-making authority to local board members. And that's fair enough, because there are some quite clear technical and legal process requirements in deciding a notification. One of the options you could take is to trial the decision-making process for select types of application, like I said, and potentially, as part of the trial, only allow boards who have a currently certified board member or members who are certified for the Making Good Decisions program under the RMA. There are ways to implement the delegated power, I believe, in a sensitive, risk-managing way. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Troy. So we'll just now move straight to questions, and I have a question in the name of Councillor Daniel Newman.
Good morning, Troy. Thank you very much for being here. You addressed the issue in relation to members qualified through the Making Good Decisions process, so I won't ask you about that. If you were to have this delegation, can you describe for me, hypothetically, the kind of application that you think would satisfy the criteria for that particular application to be notified, or at least limited notified?
The types of application?
Paul?
Yeah. So integrated residential developments, but only in certain zones, like the single house zone would be one. Proposals to subdivide or demolish existing homes or add to the height of existing homes in single house zones. Single house zones in particular, in my area and in a few other areas around Auckland, have special character overlays and tend to arouse the most unrest amongst locals when there are developments, particularly developments which seek to amalgamate two adjoining properties and open up the ballpark for what could or couldn't be developed. And we've had 3 examples in Remuera alone in the last year: Oraki Road, St Vincent's, and now at Ventnor. And then I've also included any proposal to build an apartment block in a mixed housing, suburban or urban zone that infringes height standards but by more than 1 floor. So overwhelmingly, all the applications that arouse the most concern about adverse effects on neighbouring properties have a strong height effect aspect to them.
And if you were to be given delegation, is the board's role limited to decision making around the notification, or is the board also contributing through the hearings process? What is the start and what is the limit to the board's roles?
So the delegated power we're seeking is regarding the notification part of the process. The eventual grant of the application, depending on which notification route it went down, would and could still rest with a commissioner or with a planning member of staff. It could do.
Thank you. Councillor Desley Simpson.
Morning, Troy.
Hey.
Have you discussed this with the local board chairs forum, and do you have general agreement from all 21 local boards for this?
Yep. So a copy of our resolution was sent around all local boards, and Scott Milne, our chair, has raised it in the local boards chairs forum. Yep.
Of the 21 local boards, do you know how many boards have someone who has the RMA qualification, making good decisions?
No, I'm sorry, I don't factually. No, there's only a few.
And the final question is, would this have any effect on timing for people's resource consent by passing delegation to local board? What impact would that have on the...
I don't believe it would. I mean, at the moment, the protocol, and certainly the one that we work to, is to have comments on notifications back to the planner who's processing it within 3 working days, and we tend to come in within 48 hours of that on just about all of them. And given that we're only seeking a delegated authority in respect of a really small number of types of application, it would be something to set up to make sure that we get the notification assessment done within whatever 3-5 days, whatever the planning team makes it easy for them to fulfil their side of the role.
Thank you. Councillor Christabi.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, Troy. Look, I've been around and seen political involvement with the regulatory process in the former councils, and I've seen some abominable decisions, windows and doors being moved by very inexperienced people, and we've sought to put at arm's length the regulatory functions from the political governance functions. Mm-hmm. Is your beef really with the application of Section 95A? Is it the application, how 95A is being responded to? Is that your main concern? Because for me, it's sounding like that. I just wanted to check in with you on that.
I don't know if I've got a beef with it, Councillor Chris. I think that it's quite easy. Well, certainly I find it quite easy to distinguish between when I'm a political animal, which I like to think I'm not, and when I'm being a good governor, because I separate good governance from politics. But I also separate quasi-judicial functions from politics as well, and I find it quite easy to distinguish between the two. Where the murky line comes is where you are in your board capacity getting lobbied by 100 angry locals who can't believe that, you know, there's a 4-storey apartment going up next door, blah, blah, blah. The beef factor, no. I think what the pattern, the evidence shows, is that there has been a consistent non-notification of applications which have a high number of infringements, and, to quote, from the lawyer who is taking the judicial review proceedings, and he has 30 years of environment court experience, he says that even the high-intensity development proposals that meet the bulk and location controls pay no regard to the context of the site in terms of building intensity or recognition of neighbourhood character, residential amenity, recurringly being rubber-stamped, non-notified when there are good reasons why they should not. And I understand how busy and difficult it must be to be a processing planner, and I think there's an opportunity for a small percentage of that workload to be offloaded to the right sorts of qualified board people.
Okay, look, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, Councillor Linda Cooper.
Sorry, it's not a question. It was just something I just felt the need to clarify after Councillor Simpson's question around would you delay something? Well, if a local board recommended and got to decide whether there was notification, when in fact maybe under the triggers to notify under section 95 A, then yes, there would be a big delay because you'd have to have a hearing where you might not normally. And so I think that's a little bit, I just wanted to clarify that. There'd be a huge delay in the development because you'd have to have a hearing where you might not normally if you use the steps that our staff and duty commissioners use. That might not trigger a notification.
Is that something for me to respond to? Because I mean, I can say, so long as the notification decision is done within time, whether there is an eventual delay to the development or not isn't actually the relevant issue. If the process is implemented properly and the notification is a justified one, then that goes in for the taking for any type of application that's filed. The Resource Management Act is about enabling development, but it's not necessarily about enabling cost efficiencies through avoiding notification. They're very distinct and subtle issues. All right?
Thank you very much, Troy. I understand that judicial review is being heard in September, so I think both you and we will be looking with interest to see what the outcome of that will be. In the meantime, can I ask Councillor Simpson to move that we receive the input from you and to thank you for that? And do I have a seconder for that? Looking for a seconder, Councillor Bartley. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much, Troy. Right, we now come to extraordinary items. I've received notification of none. So we come to item number 9, the Independent Maori